I'll hit the start streaming button. All right, so this is me and Nova. I think just wanted to be like 10-0. I think she got this one out of time, if I recall. Hope you guys have some pen and paper. Okay, that's once. Should leap again. Let's go back. Okay, so let's kind of rotate around. Who starts first? Let's start with Geitz. What did you think?
So the biggest thing I notice is mainly a comment on Nova's side of she throws like a really good kill shot, a really good like all-in shot, but there's never like an attempt and then the shot. Like there's never a pump or a fake. It's usually like either like a full wrap to the hip or a pretty deep cross where if it gets caught in a good block, it's going to be kind of block and then dead.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Is that your feedback?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, Toby.
So one thing again, it was more for Nova's side, but also for you. You did a really good job of catching Nova because they kept crossing their feet. You would catch Nova where their feet were stacked on each other and they weren't able to move, and then you would close in, so they could no longer move side to side. Um, and also kind of like off Geitz's thing is they would throw like an all-in shot, you would block strike, and then they would die. So for Nova, I think it would be to not stack their feet and cross their feet. Like that would be something to focus on for footwork is making sure when you're moving a direction to um, like actually keep that foot in that direction. I guess I don't know how to describe it. Just don't cross your feet. I guess is the easier way to say it.
Yeah, it's like general footwork boost there. That's like one of those fundamentals for sure. Uh, is that your feedback?
Yep. And then again, trying to incorporate what you did to Nova, where they caught you caught Nova feet stacked, could no longer move, and then you would close in for the kill. That's just something that they can take away from your fighting too.
I think that that makes sense. I want to add the comment that I didn't. I was at no time aware that her feet were crossing. I'll have to like watch it again at some point. I think that that was more of like sensing that her shots tend to be like a very long range snipe at like a completely full extension. And then I feel like she's kind of like waiting to see what I'm going to do after that. And I'm kind of just like counter closing and usually throwing like a low quadrant shot after that is like my basic game plan in this particular one. Ren, did you have feedback?
Yeah, I think some safer stops could definitely help her a lot. I think the crossing speed thing mostly happened when she was moving counterclockwise around you and in response to you. Taking smaller steps that don't cross over will probably be helpful there. Smaller steps also when she's closing, she tends to like was overextending a bit while she was closing. That's why she was high up and she came back in. She some quite big runs. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I think for like the safe jump specifically, I think her shots are typically very vertical, which don't really provide like quite as much of a block afterwards compared to like a big diagonal chop sweeping upwards or like a horizontal chop or something like that. I think you could make the argument that a vertical chop could provide some low quadrant defense if you kind of bend down with it into that guard position. But I think she was kind of like waiting excessively long for my riposte to come back, as opposed to like usually when you block strike, you'll throw a shot and then you don't wait for them to throw back. You move immediately to the quadrant that you think that you're going to get thrown at, and you're not really trying to react to them, but you're watching to see if your plan is incorrect and react to the secondary thing that's going to happen, because it's usually like a little bit slower and you have a little bit more time for it. If that makes sense. I think my other feedback was that I had was just I think we need to enhance low quadrant guards there, because most of the ones I think were like across the body that I ended up landing, and I think I did not feel like Nova was responding to my footwork with her own. I don't think I used any terribly complex footwork here. Just kind of like a forward drive when I felt like I got a sufficient block that would give me an opening. And I think it may tie into what Toby noticed about the crossing of the feet may have been like why that footwork was not taking place. But I think just tying your steps to your opponent's step at a 1-to-1 ratio. Like if they step forward, you step back. If they step laterally, you step laterally to counter move against them. It's a good rule of thumb and maybe something to add into that practice. So I think that's my feedback for this one. Does anyone else have any other closing notes?
One last thing, I think starting guard position is very vertical. I think that's because she uses that to throw those very deep shots. I think might help her to try experimenting with like a further forward guard position. Definitely has some muscle to like get shots off from that.
Definitely. Any other closing notes? Going once? Okay, let's hit the next one. This was me and Art. Oh, 1 second. I think this was 10-4, my favor. So, you guys ready?
Yep.
It's a good Snape. It's a good many. Let's loop that. One more time. I always do that. So I think I want to go last each time because I feel like I'm going to override other people's feedback due to the experience differential. Let's start with Ren this time.
So guys and I were both talking about this a little bit on mute, so our feedback's going to be fairly similar. We noticed that arts in this like very deep sort of forward stance, when they get pushed at all, like it seems to be very good to allow them to snipe, but once you get pushed past that, their footwork like their feet come together, and you really struggle to do anything. I think part of that's probably the confined space, but even when they rotated to the point where there wasn't a lot of confined space and they had room to back up, their feet were still coming together, and they were like struggling and had to reach them.
Okay. Gates, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, kind of expounding. Like, it's a sword foot forward stance that is very wide. So because of that, they can't back up in stance, and it doesn't seem like in the entire bounce. Sword foot forward. That they should probably develop a little bit.
Hey, come here. Come here.
Aggressive sniping.
Go lay down.
Option for when they get pushed. So because you would push them, they wouldn't have an option to reset footwork. They would, like Ren said, put their feet together and have to like almost reset the fight if they did survive the initial onslaught of the shots. They'd have to back up and like fully reset their footwork, then come back in.
One last related thing. They also took a lot of shots, especially early on, to that forward side shoulder. Again, because it didn't seem like they had a lot of defensive options there.
Okay, that all makes sense. Toby?
So the first thing I noticed from the first run through, no one actually attacked like shield side mid. Everything was either high crosses or monies coming from art, or like everything was attacking your sword side. You did throw a couple that would go towards like over his shield on shield side shoulder, but like nobody attacked like a lower quadrant on the shield side, which might just be a preference, but I always like to try to throw something out there. So I'd be like, hey, you got to worry about it. I might throw something over there. So that was one thing I noticed. The other thing I also agree with Geitz. I don't feel that Art's stance is very solid. Their feet are very wide, and then they can't explode in, they can't explode away. They have to like get their feet back together again before they can move. I don't know if it's just so they can level change, that they put their feet out wider so they can sink into their stance more, so they can throw from different angles, but all that is just keep the feet closer and then bend your knees. I think they would get a lot out of that. And then the other thing, again, kind of going back to what I said at the beginning, I feel like Art only threw shots towards every shot that they started with was towards your sword side. Everything was sword side. So it was a high cross, or it was a money, or it was a chop. They didn't do anything towards your board side, even as like a feint. The combo in the middle was like they would throw something sword side. In the middle, they might throw something board side, but then they would go back to sword side. But it was every single shot was towards sword side when it started, every combo. So trying to change that up might help.
Yeah, definitely. I think we got Rat now. Hello, Rat. We'll get your feedback on the next video. We're just wrapping up. We're wrapping up Me versus Art that we just watched. The format is we're watching every video twice, and then I'm getting feedback from everyone with me going last. So for Art, I agree with all the feedback that's been presented so far. I think it ties into the feedback that I wanted to give is I know, especially in board, I have like a very pressure-based gameplay. Like I want to stick to you and throw shots until your guard rattles apart because I know that I can keep mine together and keep things covered. And I think them having sort of a monopoly on throwing to my sword side makes it really easy for me to just cheat my shield over towards my sword hand and just cover it and throw like around it. I think that also ties into a lot of the things that I hit Art with was just dark side related stuff. One of the things that you can do with to counter dark sides is if you just kind of like push your shield forward. You don't have to like check anybody, but you can just cut the angle off so that they can't get their sword back out from under their shield, because dark siding is not like a shot. It's like a stance that you have to transfer in and out of. So if you get hit with the dark side and you push forward and move your shield forward, it kind of blocks that off. And I think that would make me have to play the sword side game a little bit more honestly. I think the art was also not really exiting when I was trying to execute pressure. I know that it was a confined space, but most tournaments will be a confined space. What we needed to see, I think, was like some circling around and away, not getting pushed against the wall. I think at one point I was letting them off the wall because I felt like it was going to be over centralizing and they weren't going to get like a fair video. But you have to kind of like circle out and away and keep that footwork moving lateral, which to tie into Geitz and Ren's point, well, everyone's point, is wide stance is really hard to move laterally with. I think the point of the wide stance is to kind of extend the reach and make the low sword side quadrant shots a little bit snappier and more accessible, but they are trading off lateral movement that they really need in sword and board to be able to get out of that pressure scenario. So I think that's all my feedback there. Does anyone have any closing notes on that fight?
Nope.
Going once. All right, Rat, I think you said that you had a different video that we wanted me to use in the Discord. Is that correct?
Yeah, this one is just much higher quality.
Okay.
The other one's like in the dark and we're constantly off camera, so let's do this one.
Okay, well, we'll get to that one last. Let's hit this next one. So let me just get my notes down.
I'm gonna use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. You guys can go ahead.
Yep. I think this one was 10-1. I think that was they got me in the shoulder on that one. That's quite enough barking, young man. Stop. Go back. It's the beginning again. I think I saw some of the foot crossing here. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it. It's a good catch. Okay, let's start with Toby this time.
So yeah, again, a lot of feet crossing. They were throwing like a few like probing shots, but it was like that was it. They didn't really have. It's kind of like the opposite, I think, of the single sword. Where single sword, it was like I'm gonna throw an all-in shot to try to kill you, and then it would get blocked and die. And then here, I didn't really feel like Nova didn't really throw a whole lot besides like probing shots. I don't know if it was just. I'm not sure. That's what it seemed like to me. I only watched the second run through, but to me, it seemed like they weren't really throwing as much as they were in single. And it also seemed too that as they kind of moved around, it's something I noticed at least. It seemed like their shield kind of just kept drifting and not staying in a solid position. It seemed like it just kind of drifted down, and then you would just step in, throw a shoulder wrap, and kill them over the shield side. Those were the things I noticed in the last fight.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Let's do Ren next.
Probably learning to throw shots and combos would help, I think. Yeah, a lot of the shots, some of them were good, like, shoulder reps. But, like, being able to throw something combo, like, arm and then shield, I think would do a lot of work there. And, yeah, really watching the steps, especially as she's rotating clockwise, counterclockwise. She was caught in a few times in, like, a position where she couldn't do anything, so she were twisted.
Okay. Rat, do you have feedback for this fight?
Yeah, the things that I saw that I liked were you seem like your stance is reasonably well loaded, where you're ready to throw at any time. Your knees are bent. That's good. Yeah, your shot selection is pretty varied, and the mechanics of the shots are good. What seemed like was happening frequently to me was that Tato had a lot of initiative, and I think you could really try to fight for the range or the setup that you want by feigning, stutter stepping, going in and out, or throwing a safe closing shot to like start the fight on your own terms rather than letting, like, there's one time where he does the potion lives to you where you're like basically letting him do his setup. The only like more fundamental point I have is it does look like you're putting a lot of weight on the back of your foot and your midfoot when you're stepping, and though it takes a little bit more energy, you might want to experiment with trying to move that towards the balls of your feet so that you can lateral more easily and just change the angles.
Okay, that makes sense. Gates?
Yeah, echoed some of the stuff that was said. I think that Nova needs a bigger board. That's kind of just like an equipment thing, but I think it would help a lot in some of the things that she's getting sniped on. Her stance seems very uncertain. It seems like in a lot of bouts it was changing it up and never really fully sure on where she wanted to stand, how she wanted to leave the board, where she wanted to put her hand, which I think led to a lot of range control issues where she was getting ready to like load up for maybe a snipe on you and would just get sniped too soon because it was just, I think I'm in a good range. Oh, I don't know that Tato's already in my range and it's killing me. I think having a more solid stance and something you're just more confident about in general will lead to a bit more confidence with, okay, how far am I away from somebody? When you're constantly changing it because you're not sure, or at least it seems like you're not sure, you're never going to fully have a true sense of that range there.
Okay. So I think my feedback was definitely Nova and I have talked about her getting a bigger shield. By the way, Ren is on the call and Geitz is on the call through Gwen Henderson, but Nova's not on the call, just so you're aware. I think like there's a strategic error here where I felt like Nova wanted to engage with me like at the range that I wanted to, and that's the problem with that is that Nova is taller than me, right? They have like a range advantage that I should have to close through I think that was part of the reason that Art is throwing a lot of sword size, because they're aware of that and are trying to kind of pin that down a little bit. But I felt like Nova was kind of occupying that sword side, but was not using it to keep me off of them. She had some shield side attempts on the shoulder wrap, and I think that sometimes people at our practice kind of feel uncomfortable trying to hit me there, but you do have to throw at it enough that I think that it could be a risk to avoid me stacking my defense just on the sword side, because then it just gets impossible to get through almost at all. So even if it's just like a shallow, safe tap to the shield side on the shield, like, I'm not going to know that you weren't actually trying to hit that and you're just trying to divert my attention. I think that that's something that can be helpful. I had a note for me was I got killed on trying to throw a scoop shot. I need to kind of file that under lower percentage shots where I needed to do more probing. I think I'm kind of just like throwing it out to see if it works. And I think it's kind of just like not that type of shot. I think it's kind of like a board side hip wrap where you need to have like some information before you throw it, and you can't just kind of like use it at random, right? You have to like build some context for that, because I got killed on that one. So I need to look and see if I can like modify that it's like a little bit safer. I think the last practice I was trying to throw this scoop in single sword as a blade beat from long range, and that seemed a lot better as a kind of a probing shot. But I think trying to throw a scoop here sword board was like the thing that made me lose a round. I think the footwork comments from the previous fight also hold, so I would take note of those as well. So that's my feedback. Does anyone have any other closing notes? Okay. So the next one is me versus Art single sword, and this was 10 me, 8 Art. So I am hoping that I get some feedback for this one, because I'm sure there are some things that I could do better. How long does this go on? Is it 3 minutes?
That was a really nice magic switch.
Thanks. I think that one I called elbow because it hurt getting hit in the elbow, but that was actually my body.
That was a good set.
So one more time. Okay, let's start with Rat.
The one thing I was thinking about for you was, I mean, like basically this is all fantastic fundamentals, etc. I think I would need to like slow it down a ton to think about like individual fight decision making and stuff like that. But one strategic tool that I use a lot is creating uncertainty about when I'm going to dive. I think for you, for me, it's like if I'm going to dive, not when, but for you, it's probably a question of just like when are you going to try to close to the range that you like. And so, with that in mind, you might try taking just a small step back while Art is doing his. Because it seems like Art just wants to sort of like bounce in and out of long to mid range. So you might try to take a small step back to entice him to step in and then use that as your moment. I do think you are doing that. Like if I slowed it down and looked at you're kind of using your lateral footsteps to do the same thing. But just like sort of changing up the timing on the footwork and using backward movement to get him to come at you so that you can get to your range.
I think that's good feedback. Just as a reminder, Art's pronouncer they them. I'm not sure if you're seeing that in the chat. So I think you're spot on. I feel like I'm waiting. Like I don't know what the actual number is. Where I'm like saying I'm waiting exactly 3.72 seconds. I'm like, okay, it's go time, motherfucker. I'm coming for you, and it's like very very predictable in terms of like the timing. So I think I need to make a lot more effort to make that confusing for sure. Did you have feedback for Art specifically? I don't want to make this all about me.
No, I was only watching for you.
Okay. Appreciate that. All right. Do you have other feedback?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Toby?
So one thing I noticed the first run through, Art did a very good job of taking the initiative in the first couple fights. They really controlled the fight, and then you were able to reverse that, and then you started to being able to like aggress and take the initiative, and that's how you started. Because I think they either won like the first couple fights or they just controlled the tempo, and then you took that back, which was really cool to see. Um, again, it goes back to like what the sword and board fights were. Art's stance is very wide, where like if they want to be able to play that, I'm going to play at long range mid game. If their feet were closer together, they'd be able to move in and out a lot easier, uh, as well as be able to, kind of like what Rat was talking about, where like I know he knows that you want to get in on him, so he can like take like a half step forward and swing something, and then be like, then it's like Tato's like, okay, it's go time, and then he closes in, and all of a sudden he just is completely out of range and just raining snipe shots. Um, so I think that would work for both fighters here. The other thing too, like the obviously your fundamentals of block strike are phenomenal, and I feel that um, your hand placement for your hand blocks, though sometimes it was like it was in the right spot, but he's long, so he's able to get around it. Was really cool. I don't I didn't really see him hand block too much, unless it was to block the lower quadrant from like a money or like his hip. He didn't really do anything. They didn't really do anything to block their arm with their free hand. So being able to bring that extra hand out to block the arm as Art is throwing their shots, because they were trying to mid-range stuff. If they would just put their hand there, they would be a lot safer. But yeah, that's I think that's all I got.
That makes sense. I think for clarity's sake, I think that they got a fair amount of hand blocks on their body side, but that was out of view of the camera. But I remember them distinctly getting a lot of those on that side. So a lot of the resets were like double taps where I'd hit their offhand twice. Let's go with Geitz next.
I think on your side, it looked like near the start you really were keeping your guard down pretty low, and throughout the course of the fight, I noticed that like Art in general is not throwing many low quadrant shots. In fact, as I paid attention in the second playthrough, none of their follow-up shots. So if they threw one shot, the second shot was never to a low quadrant a single time, and their opener was only to a low quadrant maybe 2 or 3 times at most. So throughout the fights, your guard started to like start low, but as soon as you pressed in, it immediately went up. And I don't know if that's because you noticed that they were throwing very upper on you, but it led to some better results for your end. Also, at the start, it seemed like you wanted to set the pace of I'm going in now, like you said, and later on did a lot more of I'm going to kind of go in and out and bait out that first shot. And once you got that first shot, you gained a lot of opportunity and a lot of space on them, which led to some better results for you. So my big thing was, yeah, kind of like piggybacking off of Rat's note of like the timing and really like dictating off of that, especially when someone wants to play the snipe game on you, when someone really wants to get long, and just messing with that a lot. And for Art, like I think they did a great job. Some variation of shot would really help because at least me, I wouldn't have feel threatened in my lower quadrant at all anymore after that start.
That makes sense. Ren.
Piggybacking off of that, there were a bunch of points in the mid fights where their sword was going lower and lower at the beginning. I think they were trying to bait your guard back down or make you think they were going through there, but because they weren't throwing low much at all, it didn't work. So yeah, the threat has to be combined with the bait there, I think. I also think their footwork was doing like a lot more for them here than it was in board, and that's like the difference between the two categories.
Okay. So my feedback, for myself is I'm definitely like trying to drive too hard in. Like I want to hit people in the body because it pleases me. I think Art is very committed to counter striking, and I was kind of like not. I felt like I wasn't really respecting that. Like the smarter thing to do would be to use more reversal strategies and try to like bait that counter out and punish off of it. But I think what my internal monologue here was like, excuse you, I'm the fucking Tato. I'm coming for you. And I think I dropped a lot more fights than I needed to because I just didn't make that adjustment very well. I felt like my opportunities here were kind of like my main opportunity was I know that because of the wide-footed stance and how they typically want to kind of throw like a cross trap then with a horizontal with horizontal chops. The counter movement is circling out around towards their sword side, but I think I got caught up and thinking like, well, I can't do that every time, and so I tried to mix it up arbitrarily and dropped fights for that. I think I need to commit to more like, if I know that this is going to work, I need to use it until they prove that it will not work and not like try to mix it up before it's time. Like you could probably get, I would say against most fighters that are not warlords, you can still do the same thing to them twice in a row. It's when they're at that top level that you need to start riffing off that a little bit harder. So I think that was important. I think this was also like a wake-up call for me for where someone is using a wide low stance like that. It extends their range a lot. So I was not estimating that very well and was getting hit before I expected it. I think I need to play maybe a bit campier of a game and kind of counter strike at long range and then use that hard close as more of a mix up or more when I've kind of like impressed upon someone that like you cannot just fight me from long range and now I'm coming for you, as opposed to like just saying like it's me, I'm the Tato, I'm fucking coming. I think notes for Art. I think the wide stance here carries over from board. I think the main strategy that I would add here that I think could have them winning this first to 10 is like they're very committed to counter striking, and that's great. And especially counter striking that turns into rapid taps for trapping. And I think what I want to see is like after you've trapped someone out a bunch of times and you get them on the defensive, that's when you can start faking people out. And I think Art could have certainly started doing that. And then I have no idea if I need to like counter strike or block to get in. But this is more like I needed to use, this was very clear where I was like, I need to use lateral movement towards sword side and a reversal strategy to get inside, but adding that second layer of good feints after establishing that control for counter striking, I think would have taken this for them. So, Rat, did you have something to add? I think you raised your hand.
Yeah, can you explain why you want to drive towards sword side because of the way Art is set up? I didn't quite understand that.
So, let me see here. I don't think my Zoom it is going to work because we're not sharing I'm not sharing my desktop. I'm just sharing the tab. Let me go back. No, you can't see my mouse. Give me 1 second. Stop sharing. Tag screen. This one. Not Zoomies. That's not correct. Zoom it. Fucking AI Windows bullshit, man. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see my desktop?
Nope.
Yeah, you can't see it, huh?
Now we can see the squiggly line.
You can't see the video?
I see you and Art squaring off, and I see a blue dot.
Okay, you see it then. It's just giving me a weird presentation on Google Meets, right? So Art is throwing kind of a horizontal cross up across this way at this shoulder, right? So their sword is ending kind of like this, and it puts their hand back here. So most of my opportunities were if I step out and around because they're wide, this wide-footed stance is good for moving backwards because the leg is kind of preloaded with a lot of weight here. It's not very good for moving forward unless you like lean forward. But wide stance like this is really not very good for pivoting because you kind of have to like push off with this leg and twist, and you have to generate rotational energy with this leg too. While you do that, you kind of can't just like pull with this front leg and then step. So I think wide stances, typically you can get a better lateral opening for that. So a lot of my wins were trying to come out around this side and try to jam out the sword and throw over top at this forearm. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Let me get this fixed. I think what I was kind of thinking of was that like it was okay for me to do that more often, but instead of trying to wait for it to reset between fights completely, I think what I needed to do was just use some circling to the other side for a little bit. And then do it again until they've proven that that's not going to work and they'll counter move appropriately. Instead of just like saying, nah, okay, I can't do that twice in a row. It's like, you can. So I think that's my notes. Does anyone have any other closing notes? Nothing. All right, let's move on. This is me and Dallas. So we're going to watch this twice. This sound, by the way.
1-0 Tato.
I think they said a 10-4.
Simo. No, left. 3-2. Three. 4-3 Delos. 4-4. Simo. 5-4 Tato. 6-4 Tato. 6-5 Tato. 7-5 Tato. 8-5 Tato. 9-5 Tato.
Let's watch it again.
Tato. One one. Simo. No, last. 3-2. Three three. 4-3 Delos. 4-4. Simo. 5-4 Tato. 6-4 Tato. 6-5 Tato. 7-5 Tato. 8-5 Tato. 9-5 Tato. 10-5 Tato.
Let's start with man.
I don't have good notes. That was pretty brutal. They also footwork sometimes get crossed. He's always really quick to get out of it. Good at catching him sometimes when his feet aren't in a great spot. Yeah. That's what I got. Sorry.
Okay, all good. Gates.
I think the most interesting thing I noticed was, and it was also kind of hard for me to like find a lot of feedback on this since flow is my weakest. Is Delos is pretty comfortable switching from right foot forward or left foot forward in terms of his flow stance, but 8 out of 10 times jabs with the backhand, which is interesting because he's comfortable jabbing with either one, but almost always his first shot would come from his backhand, or at least the one that was a little further back. He keeps them pretty nice and like out there, but it would never be that lead foot hand would be the first shot that came out, except for like 1 or 2 times.
That's a good note. It's a good thing to think about. Let's go for Tabby.
So kind of along the lines of what Guides was saying, I did notice that Delos, whenever they would throw something with their left hand as an opener, which they didn't do very often, they would always throw the same shot. And it was like this, like, instead of just like a normal chop, it was kind of like this looping shot. and it was like the same thing every time with their left hand. Um, and I didn't realize it at the time until Kites pointed it out. But yeah, that every time they threw like a jab, it was always with their backhand. Um, so like being able to throw more, uh, like being more comfortable throwing shots with your left hand as an opener, even if it's just like a quick chop. They did throw those occasionally, but it was usually part of a combo with like their right hand also engaged. They never opened with like something else with their left hand. One thing I've been trying to do more is like I'm gonna fight left foot forward, left sword forward, circle towards my opponent's right hand, throw a shot towards the outside to try to get them to move their guard out. Because either if they don't block it, I'm gonna hit them in the arm, and if they do block it, try to follow up with my right hand inside really quick to take their right hand out. Because then if I throw that correctly, their left hand is either going to throw into my hand or they're only going to hit me in the arm, and then I can hit them again. It's something I've been working on. I also didn't see De La throw a whole lot of fakes. It was like just I'm going to throw a shot, and it's just going to be like percussion, bop, 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 bop. You did a good job of throwing a lot of pump fakes in that I noticed that would get him to like move stuff. And like you said before in Sword and Board, like wait for my opponent to kind of break down their defense to leave them open for me to kill them. You took advantage of them not trying to throw smoke on you, and you threw enough smoke to get him out of position.
Okay. Rat.
I was impressed with both of your precision, but I think that was a strong suit of Delos. I would say both of your footwork was a little bit minimalist. There could have been a little bit more bouncing. Same thing we talked about in your fights versus art of like stuttering in range. I also noticed that one opener on the left hand from Delos. I didn't pick up that it was always the same hand. That was a good point. My sense of like using those loops is that because you're like arcing them through a lot of distance, it's easy to like screw up your guard on them and get hit. But the thing that's bad about them is that your tip is going down, so you no longer have that protecting your upper quadrant. So when I throw those kinds of shots, I try to like get the fuck out as soon as the shot goes out, because I know that I've like lost a lot of cover. I mean, you could do some stuff where you like put your hand high at the end of it, maybe. So I mean, I think in general, chops are super strong in Florentine if you can like get them to work. And there were a few times Tato where you just sort of like jumped into the optimal range and chopped precisely. And I agree with Toby that there weren't a whole lot of two-shot combos from either fighter in this series. Those are my comments.
Yeah, that makes sense. So my thoughts were, I thought Dallas could do the same thing that I'm recommending for art, where if you're shutting someone down with counter-striking, the next game plan is to start faking on them and stuttering on them to get their guard out of place because they kind of know that they need to block, right? I think I need more in and out pressure. I think I'm kind of either on or off in this set, and I'm not like really disengaging. I'm kind of just hanging out on the inside and finishing it. I think Dallas can maybe add a little bit more lateral movement on the inside. It's super powerful in Florentine mid-exchange to just do very, very small steps to the left or right, because if you don't have your sword on the outside edge of the cone of attack, you do not have any guard in Florentine. And when you're under the duress of people throwing on you, it is very easy to misjudge their location and the space in front of you. So those little lateral adjustments are really helpful. I think my game plan here, because Dallas started out ahead, and then I kind of warmed up and kind of took like the last 5 consecutively. I think my game plan here was like, oops, all block strike, and like that's okay. But I think what I need to do is, if that's my plan, I probably need to hang back a little bit more and get them to open on me, for a round or two to kind of just like get a read on their habits and just not try to throw back, but just like protect myself, let my brain kind of examine their form for a little bit to get used to like what the shots and stuff are going to look like, because you kind of have to like know your opponent's body mechanics pretty well to block strike them really effectively if that's like the only thing that you're going to do. I think the other piece is like reversal strategies would have been really important here. Like I know that Dallas likes to counter strike, but I don't have like a dark side equivalent in Florentine. I'm kind of just like throwing a save shot to their hand and then hoping for the best after that, which is good, but it's not great. And I think when you have someone whose hands are as fast as Dallas, and you don't have the range of Peter the Quick, it's kind of a very risky way to play. So I think I need to kind of meditate on my strategy a little bit there because I kind of wasn't happy with that. I can also agree that we were both pretty minimalist on footwork as well. I definitely need to add more of that. I think juking people out of position a little bit is going to be critical for me there. So does anyone have any other closing notes on this?
The idea of not having reversals, which I haven't heard that term before, but I'm guessing that means things like dark side, the bell shot where you switch your shield over. Like, is that right?
So when I talk about reversal timing, I'm talking about like on beat 1, you do something that draws a shot, and then on beat 2 of the fight, you hit them for it. So like a reversal timing for a dark side is like beat 1, you kind of pop your shoulder open from behind your shield, and then on beat 2, you cross your shield over and throw at the same time, right? So it's kind of like passing round 1 and then attacking on round 2 for reversal timing, whereas like counter timing is like I'm just going to attack you on round 1 where I see an opening, and feint timing would be like I'm faking during beat 1 and then attacking during beat 2 in hopes that you try to block the incorrect location on beat 1 and then get hit on beat 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I wonder if the reversal strategy here is just if you're at long range to like basically inside outside to their lead arm and using your back arm. I usually put the left foot forward, so it would be my right arm to get to go inside, like to the top combo that Toby suggested, like outside slap, inside chop, something like that.
Maybe that's a good idea. Writing that down. Okay. Other closing notes. All right, sick. Next one. Let's get.
Saturday's a little warmer, 41 degrees. Oh, sorry, for a second.
Is that 2 Tato? 1 0. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Two Tato. Rio Tato.
Above wrist.
Four Tato. Five Tato. He was on before it was facing. Six Tato. Oh, sorry. This one. Okay. Oh, I thought you were down there. I went away. No,
That's fine. You switch. You switch. I'm dead.
Okay.
Forgot.
5-1.
Yeah.
6-1 Tato. 7-1 Tato.
That was a good sword side drive, like I was talking about with Art.
Good. Off hand step. Yes. Sorry.
7-2.
Was this one a shot or was
It
it?
was my worst swing of my career, but it was a swing.
Okay.
Thanks for
Okay.
checking.
Because like,
I did my best. You first. Yeah, you got that. Good job.
7-3. 8-3. 9-3. 10-3 Tato.
One more time.
Yeah. Looking bad. Saturday is a little warmer, 41 degrees. Oh, sorry, first event.
Is that 2-0 Tato?
1-0.
1-0.
Okay, so let's
Thank
stop.
you. Thank you. Two Tato.
Three potato.
3-0 Tato.
Above this.
Four Tato. Five Tato.
First. It was on before it was facing.
Yeah.
Six Tato. Oh, sorry.
Just one.
Oh,
Okay.
I thought you were down that one already.
No, I
That's fine.
swapped
You
with
switch.
firearms.
You switch. I'm dead.
Okay.
Forgot.
5-1.
Yeah.
6-1 Tato. 7-1 Tato.
Shoot off hand step. Good. Off hand step. Yes. Sorry.
7-2.
Was this one a shot or was
It
it?
was my worst swing of my career, but it was a swing.
Okay.
Thanks for
Okay.
checking.
Because like,
I did my best. You first. Yeah, you got that. Good job.
7-3. 8-3. 9-3. 10-3 Tato.
All right, let's go with Toby first.
So Just for context, was this after you guys did flow?
Before.
Before? Okay. Because I feel like, um, from what you said before, um, about when you were fighting flow, uh, you were I might have might be misremembering, but you did do like some body fakes here. Like you would do like some stutter steps in, and he would kind of like back off and be like, "Oh shoot," and then he would like close in, and like I feel you did a really good job that in single. I don't know if that was something that you were focusing on more, but I felt you did that much more in this than you did in flow. Um, the other thing too, again, it kind of goes over from flow for Delos. They didn't really start with any kind of smoke, any kind of. It was like I'm gonna throw a shot, and it was a real shot. Um, they never kind of like try to pump fake or do anything. Um, for the most part, I do remember like a few times, but it wasn't like, you know, I don't know, even like I'm gonna throw like half a shot, because that's something I've been trying to do more too. It works against Doug quite often, where I will throw like a very safe shot, or I will throw like a half a shot, and as soon as I do that, because he's like I want to close, so I do that, and he's like, okay, it's my turn now, I'm gonna close, and then I take a big step backwards, and then he no longer has range, and I can kind of pick him apart. Um, but I feel that if Delos wants to be very countery, he can set that up by like I'm going to throw a very safe shot first to get my opponent to throw exactly what I want them to throw because they think it's open, and then all of a sudden I'm no longer there and I get my counter that I want to get. So I think they would benefit from that, even if it's like a half step in. They do a half step with like a half throw, a safe shot, and then back out to allow their opponent to close in because they think it's their turn, and then he can counter and get what he wants. I think he would get a lot more success in that in single.
Okay, that's a good point. I especially like the point about using body fakes here and not in flow. I don't think it was a stamina issue because this was not a very long day for us. I think it's probably just like one of those issues where it just hasn't been copied over from other styles. Like how sometimes like people will have good footwork when they have single sword, but like not with sword and board for some reason. Even though it's like you've got the same two legs, I think it's just something like that, and I need to just spend a little time bringing that over into Florentine. Okay, let's do Rat next.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing about your footwork in this had a lot more in and out, Tato, and it gave you a ton of openings. I thought that Delos lost the range control game because of that, and it meant that when his opener didn't work, he didn't really have a plan. I did also think I have to like go back through and count, but it felt like he was getting forced to the outside a lot. This happens to me too when I fight you, and I don't really know what the answer is. Like you're very strong on the inside, but like there are a couple times where he just like sort of try a scoop, and I felt like he didn't have a durable game plan after a fairly high committal shot. Like there's a money towards the end of the set where he does that, and yeah, for me when I'm in that situation, I'll either just not throw that shot, or if I'm gonna throw him, I just need to like get out afterward, like try to scramble out of time, out of range. Excuse me. One thing I liked that you did, Tato, that I'm gonna try to steal was there was a moment where you like could have hand blocked something, a money, and you just like stopped yourself from doing it, and you just blocked it with your sword hand, and you didn't have to lose the arm. So you had your hand in a really good position. I'm gonna try to copy that. That's all I have.
Okay, let's do Gates.
I think that Dallas is probably fighting a bit too much counterattacking here. There's a lot of the bouts where his sword is. I think you guys are at a range where, one step and you can hit each other, and his sword is way too far down, and he threw a lot of those scoops to your sword side hand. And I don't even know how many times they hit guard. Like they were just like getting thrown out there as like kind of a ranging tool, kind of a counter striking tool, but they weren't working almost ever, unfortunately. So like sticking to that throughout the entire fight was a bit much in my opinion. And it's like I don't know how true this is, but to me it feels like you're wasting like like half a frame input where sometimes you're getting outranged because you're starting pretty low in your guard because you're waiting for like a counter strike or a scoop, and if you miss or are too late on the trigger, your guard's not in the perfect spot and you're just lagging behind, especially when you're fighting someone like Tato who like has the explosiveness to kind of get in there and that speed to and really the decisiveness to make the decision of I'm going in now, I'm going to hit you in the body. So to me, it was just like way too much of sword being down and waiting for the scoop, and it was not hitting.
Okay. Ren.
You stole my points, man. You stole my points word for word. Okay, we're fine. Yeah, I think he also just gave you, on the times where he wasn't growing that much, too much time to plan how you were going to come in. And that was a little problematic. I think just throwing anything in there, body fakes, something to throw you off, will stop him from making that plan and jumping him.
Okay. So I think my notes, I think Dallas and I could both use there's like a range masking technique that Rock talked about in their fights with Bell, where you kind of in your stance you shift your weight back onto your left leg a little bit so that your torso is kind of further back in space than it would normally be if you were fighting. And then when the actual engagement starts, you sort of switch back to that slight forward lean that is in most of our stances, so that you are like suddenly much closer than you appear just because you were leaning back a little bit. I think we could both use that a little bit. Dallas has some knee related issues, and I think that would be a huge addition because there's like their footwork is like not bad, but it's probably never going to be like super explosive, right? So I think that the addition of that specific technique would probably help a lot. That actually might be a good point for Geitz too. That would be very effective. So I think the other thing where I got Dallas here was mostly, I think it was on two things. I think it was on knowing that they wanted to counter each round, so I just had to throw safely. I think there were some rounds where I just got real belligerent and was like, I'm going to hang back, especially when they were down an arm. I'm like, I'm going to hang back. I'm going to throw into your hand and arm until I hit something, and I don't care how many times it takes to do that. And that kind of like, it's just you have to be able to like fake someone out and drive in when they're going to do that to you, because they are saying like, principally speaking, like only one person can kind of counter strike at a time, right? Like someone has to do the approaching. So you need to kind of like use a reversal or some kind of feint to like get me to mistime my counter when I'm kind of switching to that mode. And I think switching away from the counter striking mode into a faking mode would be really helpful as well. I think the other thing that I got Dallas on a lot, especially when they were down an arm, was just big laterals. I think that they were not able to adjust to my larger lateral steps. I was getting them like in the leg a lot because they thought that I was like out of range, but they were not oriented towards me anymore. So their leg was like closer to me than I think that they thought. So I think they probably need to watch that lateral. I think if someone takes a big lateral on you like that, it's probably best to step back, because it takes a second to recalculate that new lateral position in your head. So you could like try to guess that they're gonna like stop in the position that you think they are. But I think if someone like takes the opportunity on you to take a big lateral drive like that, you should probably back out and reset instead of like kind of just trying to sit back and fight it out from that position. I think that's the main points here that I can think of. Does anybody have anything else? All right, moving on. Undo, spawn.
We are about to head out. We gotta get moving this way. That's because we're finally going.
You gonna head out?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're recording this, right? So I can catch this later.
Yeah, you can watch it later.
Sweet. Thanks, man. Bye.
Okay, see ya. more time.
Rude.
It was definitely rude.
One O Tato. Two O Tato. Three O Tato. Four O Tato. Five O Tato. Six O Tato. Seven O Tato. Eight O Tato. Nine O Tato. 10 O Tato.
All right, Rat, you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't use a dome shield, but the most successful dome shield fighters I have fought, for instance, Pork Chop down in Miami, are very, Stug is another example of this, are very good about using like aggressive laterals to open up lanes. And Foil just needs a way to get an opening on you. And so, like, being able to just like, do a little bit more explosive lateral might be one way to get there. And then using hip movement to sort of like get some of the blocks in place and also power shots is sort of generic advice. I'm not really sure beyond that what sort of needs to be done next for them to be able to get in.
Okay, Toby.
So I noticed that Foil only circled towards shield side, like the entire fight. I don't know if it's just they feel more comfortable also being shield foot forward. Obviously, they have a dome, but being able to change their footwork from sword foot forward, shield foot forward, can kind of help with that. What Rat was saying, I think, because that can create more angles. They can also do where like I'm gonna circle super hard towards board side to get them to turn, and then I'm gonna cut back towards or circle towards shield side, then cut back towards sword side. As my opponent is turning with me, I can then time that, step back, and then get the opening I need. Because I mean, I feel that they kind of circled shield side, and then they only really threw like a cross. Like they would have to try to throw across your shield to really hit anything. There's a few times I did see they threw board side, but you're already in your position to defend pretty much everything. So I think they need to utilize, like we were talking about, for you against Delos, like utilizing body fakes, where it's like I'm gonna do a little quick stutter step to get my opponent to turn more than they think they actually need to, and then they open themselves up for me, right? Um, I think that's something that they can try to utilize is either body fakes or like what Rat said, where they're going to circle hard towards one side and then cut back while their opponent is like mid step to create an opening for themselves. And then also just working on shot variation because I noticed they would throw high cross and then it would like go down towards leg, and it was like that natural motion of I'm going to throw a high cross and the next natural thing is to go down towards shield side leg, or high cross to board side. I know that they were at Ewell, they were working on their money, so if they can add that to their arsenal of being able to threaten another quadrant, I think that'll also help create more openings because they're able to threaten more areas at the same time. But that's what I got.
Okay, that makes sense. I think it's important to note that Foil has had some pretty explosive growth in variety of their shots in the past 2 months or a month and a half. This has been filmed. It's been kind of interesting to see it all kind of come together at once. So some of this is outdated, but I like the feedback that you gave of circling in one direction and then another to try to open up the opponent like on the inside. So that I think that was good feedback. I think that kind of ties into it. It felt like Foil's approach was very linear. Like when they were coming in, they were going to come straight in, and that kind of left me free to control the lateral aspect of the fight. I think my game plan here was just step hard left and money, or step hard right and shoulder wrap or hip wrap on that approach. So I think a good counterplay to that would be like kind of juke forward at the shoulders to get me to leap laterally and then match my position as I'm kind of like flying through the air like an idiot in a direction that's like not relevant to the fight. I think form wise, one of the reasons that they were not using as many shoulder and money shots as I feel like form wise their shots are kind of not powered by their hips or shoulders. It feels like kind of like they're pushing the sword onto me as opposed to like swinging the sword at me, if that makes sense. And I think that if you're talking about, I think you had mentioned using like hip rotation and things like that as a feint. I think the issue with that is like that's not built into their shots yet. So I don't think that the opponent will like believe that hip rotation unless it is like also a part of their shot mechanics, right? Like if they're kind of just like swinging from their hands and that's their normal way of throwing, if they suddenly pump their hips at me, I'm going to probably not read that as an incoming attack because it's not part of the animation of their normal attacks, so to speak. So I think incorporating more of that body mechanic aspect is going to serve both of those goals. Essentially, it's going to make the shots faster. It's going to open up the ability to make those feints work. I think what Foil got close to me in this one. I think that they need to get close to hit me because they're shorter than me. I think they probably don't want to stay close because I can throw more shots than they can per beat. Essentially, like the 2 to 3, depending on like what shot it is. So I think what the action that needs to happen here is more like a in and outs, closing and reclosing. Because I don't think that they're going to have a lot of success on that grind until their speed comes up a bit. I think you can ride that out. I know like PG does. PG will get like on the inside, soak 5 shots and block and wait till I'm out of MP for that round and then like cross me or something. So that may be something that they can try to replicate a little bit. Like if they're close in and guarding themselves really heavily and just looking for that one really safe cross, that might be a possibility. But I think that I would probably prefer if they were a little bit more in and out, close and reclose, try to get the opportunity that you want when you get on the inside and then exit safely. So I think that's my input on that. You guys have any other notes?
Just to circle back to what I meant about the hips is more that if you have an opportunity to block a shot by moving your hips in a direction, it can also power another shot at the same time. Less so with like using your hips to fake.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, next one. I want to check how many we have left. I think we've just got 2 more board ones to do, and then Rat's video, and then I think we're done. So I think we're making pretty good time.
One Tato. One. 2-1 Tato. 3-1 Tato. 4-1 Tato. 5-1 Tato. 6-1 Tato. 7-1 Tato. 8-1 Tato. 9-1 Tato. 10-1 Tato.
Let's go back. Oops. One more time.
1-0 Tato. 1-1. 2-1 Tato. 3-1 Tato. 4-1 Tato. 5-1 Tato. 6-1 Tato. 7-1 Tato. 8-1 Tato. 9-1 Tato. 10-1 Tato.
All right, let's go Toby first.
So one thing, I definitely made sure I counted in the second set. I believe you killed him 5 out of 10 times with a money shot. And the other times you were able to kill him were, I believe one of them was like a double tap to his sword arm before he could switch. and then the other ones were shield side shoulder. So you utilized the money shield side shoulder combo perfectly, and he was not able to adapt. The easiest thing to do to set that up is to just keep his sword hand down to where, like, okay, I know I can block the money occasionally. I do know he likes to run a smaller shield so he can run a heater. But just making sure it's like, okay, he's killed me with the first 3 fights you killed him with a money. To me, that would be like, okay, he's going to throw a money again because he's killed me with it 3 times. I have to keep my hand down to make sure I block that and not circle towards his board side because I'm just going to walk into a money at that point and he's going to kill me. So by keeping my hand down and circling toward sword side instead of board side, that kind of makes the money more difficult for you to hit him with. And then he has to be just mindful of faking money and throwing shield side, because it's my favorite combo to throw, or to feed off of. So then from there, if he knows he's gonna lose or die to a money shot, and setting up the defense to block that, then he has to figure out how to get you out of position. Because I feel like from the first 3 fights, you were already in his head, and it was kind of just that from there. But the hand block to keep that low to protect that quadrant, and not circle as much towards shield side to set up to make it easier, would help him a lot. Again, I think it's the same thing from flow and single. Not a whole lot of feints. It was a lot of just he's gonna throw something. It might also be the fact I noticed in this one too specifically, his elbow, like his arm looked like it was pretty sore and he's got some elbow issues. So it might have been more of like I can't really throw feints because of the limitation of my injury, which makes a lot of sense. But even then, instead of using your hand to do a fake, you can do a body fake like we were talking about. He can pump fake his shoulders. He can kind of juke. He can lean. Because I mean, I feel he's got the mechanics to be able to do that and get an opponent out of position. So if there's a limitation, you can't do it with your arm. If you can do it with the rest of your body and get them out of position, just like a basketball player does, I mean, why not take advantage of that? So that's really my feedback. Also, beautiful monies, by the way.
I appreciate that. That's my index fund strategy, trying to stack them up. So, Rat.
Yeah, I agree with those points about like creating openings, and particularly it seemed like this was another example of Tato getting ahead on the footwork, and you could see it was more about the lateral because this is board, where I think De Las needed to create some situations that were a little bit more unexpected to open up lanes for himself. I did like the one fight that he won. I did like the way that he stuffed you out and punished your dark side position. I'm gonna try to replicate the technique from that for myself. Oh, and the other thing that I've had variable success with, but I've been thinking about, is like my sense is that when I put my hand down to try to block money, I don't have a lot of offensive options from there. So what you can do with a punch instead, especially a small punch like De Las's, is just like put some portion of your board down there and then throw a cross, so crossing up your shield, into the shoulder or the sword side.
So kind of like the bell shot, but
yeah,
up high you have your shield down low.
exactly. And he might even want to use that like just at the start of a fight or to preempt or deaths. I don't know. I've tried that against you, Toby, and it doesn't work for me very often, so that might be totally wrong. But interested to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, I think the way this usually goes between me and Dallas for Sword Born is Dallas is a very committed counter striker, and it's not the only thing that they do, but it's almost always the thing that they start with. So I think what I kind of alternate between it's not really like getting in their heads so much. It's more like adjusting to the adjustment that they would have to make to stop the thing that I just did. So I usually start with like a dark side or an armored cross, which is where it's just a big high cross where your shield, the edge of your shield is on your wrist so you cannot get hit, right? And I think like counter striking is a little bit more centralizing of a strategy in single sword and Florentine. But I think in board you have so much defensive leeway that it's like it feels like it's equally committal as anything else. Whereas like in single sword, like counter striking is like fucking cracked and entirely the meta. So what I usually end up doing here is alternating between getting some kind of reversal strategy on the first fight, and on the second fight they usually say, okay, well I can't counter, and then I usually win either like on a fake or on the exchange. I think for this one, it was alternating between like Armored Cross or Dark Side on fight 1, and then money on fight 2, like after a brief exchange, to make sure that their whatever strategy that they tried to adjust with was the one that was going to kill them like on the next fight. So that's pretty much always my strategy for fighting Dayless. I think I have talked to them about that before. I think that that's a thing where they would have to not use counter-striking on fight 1 and try to use something else, like some exchange timing or like trying to trap me out with like multiple shots or like a feint or something like that would be a better plan. But I'm just so used to that rhythm between us is that this is I feel like it gives me a disproportionately high percentage relative to his actual skill level. It's just that the Yomi layers of what we're gonna do is just kind of always the same. So I think range control would have helped a lot here. I felt like I was able to come in and move laterally pretty much at my leisure. And I think almost all of Dayless's shots were also sword side. So again, like that's a kind of a counter-striking thing, but because that's what comes open. But you can counter-strike with a shoulder wrap too, especially if you move offline a little bit as they come in. So that might be something worth doing. I think those shoulder wraps need to power up a little bit to be more threatening, and I think if he manages to do that, that's going to pull my shield off my sword arm a little bit and open up more opportunities for those counter strikes to kind of land. I think what I noticed about me was I died trying to throw that scoop again. That was the same scoop technique that I tried to throw on Nova and died for. I need to like either figure that out or stop it. I think maybe it's just not a sword and board shot for me, right? Because I feel like it's like a longer range, but still kind of committal, surprising shot. I think it's supposed to be like a counter shot in sword and board, but like Dark Side or Armored Cross is like fine. I don't need like a third way of doing that that's like fancier. So I might either work on. Trying to decide between tabling that or working on it a little more. I had a lot of success with scoops and single sword, and I want to kind of translate that to Florentine, but it got me killed twice on 2 separate days where I otherwise would have had like a perfect run. I'm a little bit fussy at it. I think I don't trust scoops anymore. But anyway, I think that's my feedback on that one. Do you guys have any other comments?
Nope.
No? Okay, let's go to the next one. Just write something down. Foil v Dayless. Let's hit it. I think we'll probably be finished by like 8:45, maybe 8:30. That's good. That was a good scoop. Let's shoulder wrap too.
So what's a square? Can you call it out?
Let's watch that again. It's a long one.
So what's a square? Can you call it out?
Now let's go rat first.
I don't think I have any new comments for Delos that we haven't talked about already. For foil, that scoop at the beginning was really interesting. I do note that there have been other times they've thrown that on me, where it just comes out kind of slow, I think it's basically because it's powered mostly by the elbow, and there needs to be like some more like hip, shoulder, like foot kinetic chain, not in that order, to get it to deliver a little bit faster. You might be able to do it off of a stab too, but I'd have to experiment with that. And then I just noticed some other sort of like scraps that Foil could pick up. One was sort of like a late timing on a counter strike. It was like a whole half second later and missed the timing. The other thing I thought might be helpful for both people here is like a little bit more thought into level changing to open up lanes. Something Foil could have experimented in their fight with you earlier too. I didn't see a ton of that here. And then the other thing I noticed on Foil's end is occasionally they sort of overbalance or lean late in the exchange or at the end of the exchange. I do this too, and I think you might see this in my video, where like trying to stay centered so you can still swing and you can still move it around so you don't get like stuck. Because I did think Delos was able to open up angles and get past the dome shield by being a little bit ahead on his footwork. That's all.
Okay, I think that the thing that I noticed about this scoop that you were talking about was one of my notes. Is like that's I feel like that's a really rare type of wrap that you would throw against like a lefty border where you're hitting them in that quadrant with like the back of your sword, right? Like next to your thumb. But like I think that they're like intending to throw money, but you hit with the back of your hand with money. And I don't know if there's like much that you could do to make your kinetic chain hit with the back of your sword at that angle without basically almost purely doing it with your arm, or at least I'm just unfamiliar with it because I don't throw that at all. I think I'm too chesty to do like a dark side wrap on a lefty. I just can't get the angle on it. I think money is like you do like a reverse wrap where you hit them like as though you were hitting them with the back of your hand. I think that that's going to have a lot more punch and power to it. Anyway, Toby, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so one thing I noticed for both of these fighters, they didn't have to fight through your like Super Saiyan aura to try to get to the opponent. I feel like they both moved better when they were fighting each other than when they were fighting against you. I noticed that right away for Foil. Foil was moving, instead of just towards shield side, they were moving laterally. They were moving shield side. They'd move sword side. They switched up their feet to where their sword foot was forward instead of only their shield foot. I honestly don't know if it was just they felt more comfortable fighting each other or if they were like, I don't know. That's just something I noticed. It seemed like they also flowed more. They were more like they were able to fight the way they want to fight against each other, as opposed to, again, trying to fight through your like Super Saiyan aura of just like pressure. But I did like how Foil. I don't know if they were doing this on purpose, but they would throw like just off beat enough to where it would catch. It just kept catching Delos. Um, where like I was like, okay, if I see this situation, I feel like Delos has the advantage here, and then he would lose. And it was like, whoa, how did that happen? And then we watched it again on the second one, and it was like Delos was expecting something else, and Foil just threw a wrench in that, which I think is really good. Also, Delos' patience to not like panic and like kind of just refocus came in at the end to allow him to come back to win that. And I feel that Foil kind of started to spiral after he started to get multiple wins in a row, because they were up 9 to like 6 at one point.
Yeah.
And then they kind of, I feel like they might have gotten in their own head, and then Delos was just staying calm and able to fight back to win that overall. But again, the things that we talked about against you, they were still there to a degree, but I do feel that they fought much better in these fights. It was much closer. That was hell of a fight, a hell of a set. But yeah, I feel like they were able to fight more their own style against each other, which is I don't know. It's just my observation.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I felt like I could kind of speak to both sides of it because I was on the other side of those other two fights. But what I noticed was like you noticed that Foil's movement was better against Dayless than it was against mine. I thought that both of their shot varieties were a lot better against each other than against me, and it felt like they pared down their fighting to the most confident tools in their arsenal, right? But like, which makes sense, right? Like you would pare it down to like the shots that you were the most comfortable and confident in throwing. But the problem is like, if I feel like I'm in a level where if I only have to expect one thing, I can cover it 100% of the time or close to it, right? It's like a tiny, tiny percentage that I'm like, if I know exactly what's going to happen, I'm not usually going to miss it. Especially with my shield, man. Like, shield just makes that kind of situation so easily. I think I just have like a game plan for both of these two that I think may have shut that down to an extent. Like with Dayless, like I'm gonna switch between reversal timing and then just pressuring on the exchange and moneying them when I disengage. And then for Foil, I'm just like, I'm going to move laterally every time you move forward, and I'm never, never, never going to let you get close to me because they've hit me in the leg so many goddamn times that I can't do it again. I can't go down on the ground again, right? So I was like full on keep away mode from Foil, and then I was like switching my strategy entirely, alternating it at Dayless, and it's kind of just a situation where like I know these guys really well. I kind of know that's what works. I don't really know what the answer was to it, but I was actually like surprised by how many more shoulder wraps from Foil were in this one. There were like 3 or 4 good ones that killed, and I've kind of been like up their ass about throwing more shoulder wraps and stuff. But I think they need to just like find the confidence to deliver that variety to me. I think maybe what's happening is like at practice, they're getting shut down for doing the variety things and are paring their game down to those most confident things because they're not quite as practiced. But I think they need to endure that at practice to be able to open up those strategies and get them close enough to their muscle memory that they could do it. Right? That's my input on it. I think the mechanical stuff I think we've covered in their fights pretty much. So I think that's the limit of my input. Is there any other notes? All right, let's get Rat's new video up. It's the one he wanted me is. Oh my gosh, you're inside. That's super sick. One second. I want to make sure.
Is like nobody's there for the semester, but
So it just lets you fight inside.
yeah.
That's super sick, man.
I also don't see the video yet. If you.
Yeah, it's let me see. This
There.
one. I'm having it sharing a single tab right now because it makes the refresh rate a lot faster. I just wasn't sure how to switch between tabs because this isn't on our playlist. Swords into Plowshare is in the background. It's a very good Soul Calibur stage of history kind of thing.
Oh, the tracks in there are horrible.
Yeah, it was okay. I didn't notice it that much.
his wail of pain there just really cracked me up. Good snipe.
Now you got one.
Back again.
In general, I just want it to be more and more.
Yeah, more laterals, I guess.
Okay.
Recording.
More laterals.
All right. Well, let's change it up, and I'll go first on this one. So I think for Goblin, I know you wanted some feedback for him, and you're welcome to share the video for this. I felt like Goblin, he's footwork is like really cool to watch. It looks very boxery. He's in and out and constantly moving. It reminds me of like a cockroach almost. Like it's really a pleasure to watch. I feel like the shot variety's not there. I felt like I saw like I think it was like 2-ish attempts at a shoulder wrap. I think no attempts at money, no attempts at hip wraps that I caught anyway, and the rest were like all crosses. So I think that like I'm wondering if that's like because their shield is like too big to throw around confidently. Like if you can't throw around the shield, I know there's like the cutout of it, right? But like it just doesn't seem like he could throw anything but across like around that thing. I'm wondering if he should like, downsize that a little bit to just get a little bit more variety, because it centralizes your game plan down to like the exchanging of crossing, and like yes, you always know what to expect, but you also like can't really riff off of everything, and there's kind of like a limit to basically having the game plan of like I'm gonna beat you with this one move and my footwork and positioning. It doesn't scale, right? Like you can't. I feel like you are really hard pressed to get like a 10-0 or a 10-1 that way. I feel like you'll get like a 10-6 if you're a lot better than someone, and a 10-8 or a 10-9 if you're not that much better than them, right? It feels like it's just not gonna give him enough stuff to work with to like confuse anyone, right? And that's like the main part of the game isn't really like having such a centralizing game plan that your opponent has no options. I feel like it's more about getting your opponent to select incorrect options and punishing them for it is more of like what we want to kind of push towards. Everything was kind of like a straight shot and a counterattack or like a combination. I was glad to see combinations there. I feel like combinations, like multiple attacks in a row, like after a counterattack, are a good way of like supplementing that. I think I wanted more stutters, feints, loop feints, anything to kind of throw some smoke on their intent of what they want to do. I definitely want to see more like low quadrant shots from them. I feel like money would be awkward to throw, and a hip wrap would be awkward to throw with a shield at that size, but I could be wrong about that. For rats. So I don't have quite as much because I felt like you had a pretty good variety. I felt like you were a little bit static when you were on the inside. I think you need to keep moving laterally when you get close to them. Like little adjustments are fine. It's all you need. You don't need to move dramatically. But I felt like Goblin was kind of getting you on the small lateral changes on the inside. I think if you had moved laterally, you probably would have shut him down a good bit harder. I feel like your primary reversal strategy here is dark sides, and those are good, but they're also kind of committal in the sense that like you have to, it's like a stance change that you have to stance change out of to get through. You have to stance change out of it to be able to do things when it doesn't work and it's able to be kind of pinned down. I think what you might want to try to invest in is like you could basically throw like a real high cross where your fist is real high in the air and link the edge of your punch shield to your wrist so that your arm is completely covered. It looked like you're raising your shield with your arm when you're throwing across, and that's a good start, but you can like completely close that off by pretending that your sword and your shield are essentially like one unit, right? Like you just put the edge of it on your wrist when you throw that cross. That's my favorite reversal strategy. I feel like it's a lot safer than a dark side. Dark sides are definitely cooler. And the other thing that I saw was I want you to think more about what did I win with last time? There was one fight where you got money and you won, and it was great money. And then you tried to use money again, and I think that that's not what you want. I think what you want to do is win with money on fight one, fake money and shoulder wrap on fight 2, or fake money and cross on fight 2, right? Like you want to riff off of the last thing that you did and not say like, okay, well, money shots are working, I'm going to keep doing that. There are some times when that's optimal and sometimes when it's not. And I think the break point for those strategies is like, is the shot that I'm doing and winning with every time, like, is it committal or not? If it's not committal and you're winning with it every time, go ahead and use it every time. Like, make it their fucking problem to adapt around it. If it is a committal shot, you have to be a little bit more careful. And I feel like it's better over the course of the first to 10 to use that really good committal shot, and then when you land it on the next fight, fake that committal shot and use it to establish something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Toby?
So one thing I noticed, like the reason I said the traction was an issue was mostly for Goblin's sake, because with how much he bounces around, I noticed a lot of like, he could have been more efficient with his movement, with his footwork, because there was some times where he would step and his foot would slide an extra bit that I know he didn't want to do. I was very focused on his footwork for the very first fight, or first watch. But again, kind of going off what Tato said, he didn't really throw anything besides high crosses. I know that he was trying to figure out how to throw money, and he had ended up hurting his elbow because he was throwing it wrong, and then he just started calling it the counterfeit money.
That's
he's
funny.
he's not throwing it correctly. So I've been trying to help him figure out the mechanics of like actually throwing that without like hurting himself. But like his movement was good in and out. But like he's kind of limited on his shots at the moment. Like he throws, as an example from Tuesday, he killed me in a fight. He threw like 6 high crosses in a row as he was falling because I hit him in the leg. And instead of taking a knee, he just falls over, and he just continued to throw high crosses. And I was like, okay. I did not expect the 4th, 5th, or 6th high cross, so I guess that's on me. But I do feel that you had, he also let you kind of set the tempo of the fights, because you threw like, at one point you threw like 4 or 5 shots without him doing anything besides like kind of moving. Like he moved away from you, but he didn't throw anything in return. Like you were just kind of like, you threw a money, you threw a shoulder, and then you threw another money. And I noticed you were throwing them more towards his hand, in like the middle of the fights, as opposed to towards his like actually trying to hit him in the body. Which I know we talked about throwing, like you can throw the money as like an arm snipe if you know your opponent is gonna like throw a high cross, and if Goblin's only throwing high crosses, it makes sense there. But again, you know, you were able to throw a lot without Goblin reacting at all, to like actually return on anything. And I don't know if it's just because you guys fight all the time, and he's like, he knows if he sticks out wrong from behind his shield, he's dead. But I feel that you did a really good job of controlling the tempo of the fight, and then the few times he got you was with like you had like, you threw your shot, and then as you were trying to change position, he threw a high cross and he hit you. You had a really good shot variety. The one where you got him with the money, where he's like, that's. I feel like he moved into the money, and that's why he was so frustrated about it. So you did a good job of setting up and getting the timing on that too. Yeah, that's really all I got.
That's good. Rat, did you have comments?
Yeah, I will say I am terrified of getting high crossed by Goblin, because he can do it so deep, and he'll cross his shield all the way over, and he hit me in the hip from there.
Mhm.
So a lot of this series was me like let me not get crossed, and then it still happened a bunch because I feel like my corner drifts down, and then like there was a fight where, maybe 2 fights, where he hit me in the pec, just because my like shield was really drooping and wasn't really covering my upper right quadrant.
Mhm.
I agree with everything you guys said for Goblin. I don't know that I had anything really unique beyond that.
I feel like I don't know if this is me being a fussy old man and being set in my ways, but that's like it's too big of a shield, man. Like I get it that it's like really good for the field. That feels super I think that that would be extremely unfun to spar against, and I don't know if you guys kind of feel the same way about that. I think there's just kind of like a break point between um for like a dedicated training partner. For me personally, there's like a break point for how much cheese that I'm willing to deal with, and I feel like a shield that big is like, I think it's fine right now because he's kind of only height crossing, so it's manageable. But I feel like when his variety is there, and it's like, hey man, you're using a shield that's like a category larger than the standard that we practice with.
It is an
I don't feel like I would have practiced with that. That's not a max medium. That's no
Talking
fucking
about
way.
goblins. He's talking about Goblin Shield, not
Goblin Shield. I'm not talking about yours. Yours is a max medium. I know that. I think it's still a little big. I'm talking about goblins, man. That's like a barn door.
Oh, because he cut the corner off, so now it's a max medium.
It's a little bit hard to see because you're in profile in the video and because he's using the cover for the full-size shield, but he lopped a corner off, and so Gorg actually sells max medium in this shape. They call it the wing or something.
Oh my goodness.
But unfortunately, it is a max medium.
Okay. Well, that's me being a fussy old man then. It just seems like it's difficult to swing past, I guess. And I feel like I would want the coverage where the high cross is, where the shield is cut out, but that's just my opinion. It feels like it's a lot bigger than a max medium, but it might just be a visual thing. Anyway, that's my feedback. So I think we're out of videos at this point. I don't know if you guys have any closing notes that you want to discuss, but I felt like this was really productive, and I was really glad that the two of you were here for this.
Yes, thank you. I learned a lot from this. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it was good.
Yep.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I always like to talk wax, so.
Okay. I'll let you guys know when the next one is. You guys are in the Discord, so you'll see it. All right, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for dropping by.
Yep. See ya.
Bye, friends.